Hare Krishna. Okay. So, before we start, Purnachandra Prabhu, can you just find out how many participants we have online? Just 8. Okay. Who are they? Just can they can it be identified? Okay. Okay. So they just can see it without logging in. I understand. That's fine. I mean, I don't want to pressurize, but so Hare Krishna. Sandeep. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnaprasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswat Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadim Paschataya Desatarine Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्ता कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नित्यानंद अवधूतेन्दुर वसुध प्राणवल्लभ जानव जीवित पति कृष्ण प्रेम प्रद प्रभु पद्मावती सुत श्रीमान सचिनंदन पूर्वज भावोन्मत्त जगत्राता रक्तगौर कलेवरः नमो नमो अनिरुद्धाय हृषिकेश इन्द्रियात्मने नमः परमहंसाय पूर्णाय निवृत्तात्मने स्वर्गपवर्गद्वाराय नित्यं शुचिसदे नमः नमः हिरण्यवीर्याय चातुर्वेद So which verse are we in? 20? Yeah. I think we completed 28 and we completed 29, didn't we? Huh? Okay. Okay, I think the topics are somewhat similar. let's just go back and do a very quick synopsis of where we left off in the previous week. We are at the culmination of the third chapter. We are right at the end of the third chapter. And the third chapter is entitled Karma Yoga. Right? So the whole concept of the third chapter is focused on teaching us how to execute the activities that we have to perform within the specific ashrama that we have chosen and the specific varna that we have chosen, the specific profession and the social order that has been chosen, whether we are married, we are brahmacharis, so on and so forth. What kind of activities have we got to perform? And the idea is we also want to ensure that while performing these activities, we are able to keep Krishna in the center, which is the most important aspect. Let's understand what is Karma Yoga again. Anyone? What is Karma Yoga? What is the difference between Karma Yoga and devotional service? That's right. But ultimately, how does it start? Start off with Krishna. So there's a fundamental difference. Right, Krishna, please come. So there's a fundamental difference between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. In other words, once we are on this planet, once we are on the material plane, every action of ours is susceptible to reactions. In other words, every step that we take and every action that we do has reactions. And those reactions in general are unfavorable for us. In general, they are unfavorable. Even though we think that they are favorable, in most cases they bind us to a life which is within this body, which is not in our control. So in these uncontrollable situations, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are, the ultimate teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are that we are a spirit soul. We are not this body. And being a spirit soul, we have certain duties associated with that identity. Just as we have identified with this body, and we recognize that we are a male, we are female, we are husband, wife, we are sons, daughters, we are professionals. We have identified with different aspects of this body. And every one of these aspects of identification has duties born out of it. So as a father, there are duties. As a mother, there are duties. As a professional, there are duties. As a male, there are a certain set of duties which are naturally born. As a female, there are a certain set of duties which are nature, which are given by nature, which are ordained by nature, which are compatible. So while these duties are based on the body, and these are different identities that we have created, there is one identity which is central to our existence. And this is the whole path of self-realization. Self-realization is about uncovering the potential which lies within. Self-realization is about uncovering the potential that lies within our true identity, while not being distracted by other identities that are real but temporary. Temporary because identities change. We notice this specifically in professional life. Someone who is working for a certain institution has a certain title and identifies with great pride with that institution. A few years back, and this is going to start all over again, there was a tremendous fall of large institutions who were never expected to fall. You had Bear Stearns, you had Lehman Brothers. No one could imagine that those institutions could ever fall apart. But they fell apart. There were many who worked for those institutions who had developed identities of being employees of those institutions. So there was a certain false pride associated with it by saying, I work for Bear Stearns. I work for Lehman. Right? People used to feel proud. In fact, people used to feel proud that they are a part of such institutions. That's an identity. Now, in most cases, those identities get challenged because that's the nature of material life. The nature of material life is such that these identities that are born out of the body will be challenged because there's a rule of this world. They would be challenged one day or the other, and it would cause a tremendous amount of distress. That's one point. The second point, while we focus so much on the identity of being something beyond what we truly are, then in those cases, we are setting ourselves up for a lifetime of enslavement to that identity, which ultimately would disappoint us as well. So the whole teaching of the Bhagavad Gita revolves around resolving an identity crisis. It is the resolution of an identity crisis which is the whole focus of the Bhagavad Gita. So you start out in the Bhagavad Gita where Arjun has an identity crisis and he is trying to resolve the identity crisis. He is challenged. He is challenged by the identity crisis of being a disciple of Dronacharya. He is challenged by the identity crisis of being a grandson of Bhishma. He is challenged by the identity crisis of being a cousin of the Kauravas. He is challenged by the identity crisis of being a grandson and a son, so on and so forth. So there are so many different identities that are quite challenging for him, and he is unable to manage these identities. He is unable to manage these identities. So he's posing a question to Krishna. He's saying, how am I supposed to prioritize? Now, amongst all these identities is the identity of being Krishna's servant. That's the central identity. Right? So we have the central identity of being Krishna's servant. So Krishna says, Sarva dharman paritejya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasmi masuchaha. Krishna says that you are my servant. Give up all forms of chala dharma, upadharma, secondary duties that are born out of identification with the body. Every other duty which Arjun had something to do with this body. Being a grandson of Bhishma, being a cousin to the Kauravas, being a disciple of Dronacharya, everything had something to do with this body. And Krishna's teaching was very clear. His teaching was that you have to focus on your core identity. Now, the battle of Kurukshetra is a battle of reaching full potential for Arjun. How do you reach full potential? Now I have an identity within myself of being a soul, being a servant of the Lord. But then I have so many different identities which are external, which are temporary, which are surely susceptible to the duality of happiness and distress. One day we wake up and in one relationship we have happiness. The same relationship becomes a bed of thorns. This is an identity crisis. This is an identity crisis because we are depending on the body and on the mind exclusively for pleasure. We are pleasure seekers by nature. Never kid yourself that you're not seeking pleasure. We are pleasure seekers by nature. There's really no fun in suffering. But while we are pleasure seekers by nature, we also have a tendency to seek pleasure in an easy manner, which is seeking pleasure through the body. But while seeking pleasure through the body, we are also setting ourselves up for disappointment. Because that's the nature of this body. The body grows old. The body becomes infirm. The economy goes up and down. Facts of life. Relationships. Up and down. Fact of life. Anything to do with the body, any happiness to do with the body is subject to flickering happiness. It's a fact of life. An individual who puts his entire stock of obtaining happiness on the level of the body and relationships and identities created out of the body is surely a fool. That's the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. I am not using strong words. Krishna calls them Muda. Muda is one who is in ignorance. Why is he in ignorance? He is in ignorance or she is in ignorance because this is a failing proposition. If you've been given a proposition that is doomed to fail and you invest all your energies in that proposition, then who is to be called a fool? A person is surely a fool because they have been given advice. They have seen their fathers, they have seen their mothers, they have seen generations face these struggles through these identities. Yet, we have not learned. How many of us believe we are going to die when we hear of someone else's death? How many of us believe that we are quite susceptible to the same problems as someone else? We don't. We don't. There's also this concept of smashana vairagya. One who goes to the cremation ground sees the lamentation of the family around the dead body, feels tremendous renunciation in that particular circumstance because of the depth of the circumstance. The person feels, why did I get involved? Why did I take on so many responsibilities? What did I do? Why shouldn't I have not, opted for a more simple life? This is so complicated. This is renunciation. Someone wants to become a sannyasi. Even though he might be married, he may have children, he wants to become a sannyasi because he sees lamentation. This is just way too much grief. Why am I subjecting myself to this kind of grief? Why did I get myself into this kind of an arrangement? I wish I had not done so. I've heard this from people. I was driving back with someone from a funeral and these expressions came out and I've heard this. Physically, I've heard this in my ear. This is really a problem. But then later on, we forget. It just takes 2 days, 3 days, and everything is out of the memory and we are back to where we are, square one. So it's very difficult for us because we have identified with this body for millions and millions of lifetimes. Lifetime after lifetime, lifetime after lifetime, we have focused on this body and the pleasures of the body. Lifetime after lifetime, the body has disappointed us. It has left certain bitter experiences, and that leaves us quite scarred. You see, suffering is not such a wonderful thing. When we suffer, we become scarred, and those scars in the consciousness make us act one way or the other in the future, which is not such a wonderful thing. It leaves a little bitter taste, as they say. It leaves a bitter taste. So now Krishna is basically telling Arjun that Arjun, these are all the different identities that you have, but in reality, you only have one identity, and that is being associated with me. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Arjun is playing the part of his servant. He's a close friend and a servant. Krishna says, this relationship that you have with me is eternal. This doesn't change. This does not fluctuate with the economy. This is not susceptible to natural disasters. This is not susceptible to bodily afflictions. This relationship that you have with me, no one can disturb. And there are duties born out of this relationship. Krishna says very clearly, Arjun, focus on these duties because these are the prime duties. Every other duty is secondary. Now comes the topic of Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is the ability to deal with the secondary identities and duties associated in lifetime while keeping the main focus on Krishna right in the center. This is Karma Yoga. It's reality that we are married, it's reality that we have children, we have a wife, and we have a profession to take care of. But it is temporary reality. It is secondary in importance to maintaining the internal connection with Krishna. The permanent connection. Right? Every one of us is from India. You're Indian, almost. So, every one of us practically is from India. So now you have this sense, even though you're from India, that no matter how many years you spend out of India, India is home. There are certain bonds associated with India, right? We are still Indian by all respects, even though we may be here for many, many years. We have certain tendencies to appreciate the life that was given to us. We have a tendency to appreciate the culture. We have a tendency to appreciate the roots because that's who we are. Now that's permanent, isn't it? There's a certain bond. But temporary is temporary. So this is a reality. We are here. We may be citizens, but the alternate reality is we are also Indians. Similarly, we don't belong here to this planet. We don't belong to the material plane. We are here, reality, but it is temporary. The true reality is we belong in the spiritual sky. We belong with Krishna. We are His parts and parcels. We are His servants. So when we maintain an identity of serving Him in the spiritual sky, while being here on this planet, while taking care of other responsibilities that we have assumed in this life, that is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga as prescribed by Krishna. People say, oh, he is a Karma Yogi because he opened a hospital. He opened a Dharmashala. Good stuff. But that's not what Krishna was talking about in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He was literally talking about and addressing every one of us. He was telling us, keep me in the center, but keep every other reality outside of it as important as well and support it. So now you have a secondary reality of a profession. How important it is to function nicely in your job? Very important. But can the job take Krishna's place right in the center of your life? Can you take a decision just based on the job? Answer is no. You can never ever take a decision based just on the job. You take a decision based on keeping Krishna satisfied. The job is important, but it is secondary. The job is offering support to the primary. The job pays bills. We need money so that we don't have to worry about money. Money can never be in the center. Right? I tend to repeat, and I am being a little redundant while I'm speaking these verses and translating these verses. A simple reason is, if you do not master the teachings of this chapter, you will not be able to cross the Bhagavad Gita. There would be no question of going beyond the 3rd chapter and understanding the 4th chapter unless you start living according to the 3rd chapter. Reading and the sharing of Shastra is not to profess being a wise man. It is not to profess that I know the Bhagavad Gita and I can chant the verses, 700 verses by memory. It has absolutely no use. You may impress a few people. The whole purpose of knowing the Bhagavad Gita is for us to be able to imbibe the teachings and to be able to live according to the same. So if you start living according to the 3rd chapter, the secrets associated with the 4th chapter would be revealed. So that's the reason why I keep emphasizing verse after verse on keeping Krishna in the center. It's extremely difficult for being in a family and being able to take decisions which are prudent, which keep Krishna in the center, unless we are blessed. And we are blessed. If we are not blessed, we would not be in this assembly. We would not be discussing about this. It's very difficult. We have chosen the circumstances of our life. We have chosen to get married. We chose to come here to the States. We chose a certain profession. We choose to live in a certain way. We choose to live in a certain way with certain complications. These are our choices. We have made these choices. And how did we make these choices? By desiring them. We are what we are today because we desired such a situation in the past. If you are facing unpleasant circumstances in your life, and if you think you did not desire this, you are wrong. You desired it in some form or the other, and these are reactions that are manifesting out of those desires. So there is responsibility for the past. The past desires create the present. Why is it such a mystery? The way we performed in high school determined what kind of school we went to. College. How we did in our bachelor's determined what kind of grad school we entered. How did you perform in your grad school determined what kind of a job you got. And what kind of a job you did in the previous year determine what you're doing today. If the past is not dictating the future for you in a practical sense, then the same is applicable even with previous lives. Who we are today is a sum total of our desires. We desired to put ourselves into this situation. We are fully responsible. No one else is responsible. There's no point in pointing fingers. Someone else is responsible. You are responsible. Then the question comes, what is hope? The hope is that you desired and you put yourself in the circumstances that you are in today. Desire positively so that you will be in better circumstances tomorrow. Do we understand that? It's a very simple concept. We desired, and who we are today is based on our desires. We desire again, and the future would be made based on the desires that we take on today. But the question is, what kind of desires should we have today? That is Karma Yoga. If we develop desires, and every one of you would agree that our lives, some of us may say it's very simple, it's not complicated, but in most cases it is complicated. It is complicated. Right? It is. So would we like to have a complicated life throughout where we're going to be struggling? Struggling in unison. It's not such a wonderful prospect. We don't want to get together. I think, the baby and even the Matajis, you should settle down. That'll help me. Thank you. Thank you. Right? So suffering together in unison is not such a wonderful prospect. We did not get together as a group. Krishna has brought us together. There are no coincidences in spiritual life. We are all together. And since we are all together, what would be the point in suffering together? Does it make any sense that everybody gets around and then they just have a pity party? I pity you, you pity me. Does it even make sense? It doesn't. We all are getting together so that we could plan for a better future. Because we realize that we desired and who we are today is based on the past. So now you have the opportunity to plan for the future. So if you have a plan today, that plan and your desires of today can manifest into a better future, which is better and more controlled. How is it going to be more controlled? It is going to be more controlled because you're going to be desiring in a healthy manner. What is the plan? There has to be a blueprint. Every house has a blueprint. If I were to tell everyone here today that here's an opportunity for you, you are going to be rebuilding your home. I'm talking about your home, I'm talking about your life. You're going to be rebuilding your whole life, and here's the idea. Rebuild your whole life. You set up the blueprint and start desiring it actively. It would manifest. If this was the message, would you not take up the opportunity? Every one of us feels that there could have been a few decisions taken which could have been much better than what it is today. We have the opportunity to make changes. And we have this particular opportunity, and I'm saying I'm going to be giving a blueprint. I'm saying take the blueprint, make changes, make your plans, and it's going to manifest. That's the exercise of Karma Yoga. But the caveat, the warning is you keep Krishna in the center of your blueprint and then build the house around him. Start desiring Krishna and start desiring everything else in life associated with Krishna. Such a plan will manifest. Our problem today is because we desired without Krishna. We did not take into account that deep within this body is a soul who is the real us. We never accounted for the needs of the soul. We just planned for the body. We spent an entire lifetime educating ourselves, training ourselves, getting into association for the body. We never ever accounted for the fact that we exist deep within. And what is deep within has to be taken care of as well. If we have a plan, we have a budget for taking care of our needs as we see, there has to be a plan for within as well. That plan should be the blueprint. Everything else should fall around it. That is Karma Yoga. So now you have Krishna in the center, and then you start saying, if you're not married, you start seeking a mate in your life. You start desiring a mate in your life who would be able to assist you in serving Krishna. This is a healthy desire. Now you're engaging in Karma Yoga where you want to enter into family life. You're desiring a partner, but then you're desiring a partner in alignment with being able to serve Krishna. That's a beautiful blueprint. You are desiring a profession, and I'm not talking about money. We have absolutely nothing against making money. Money has its use. Money can be used in many wonderful ways. We are not against, and we are neither celebrators of poverty, that we should just be poverty stricken. Poverty does not bring about spirituality, it brings about suffering. So you desire a mate, you want someone who can assist you in being able to serve Krishna wonderfully. Then you would be able to find someone proper. Why? Because now you're desiring healthily and you have certain needs. You have accounted for your soul, you have accounted for the body, you have accounted for everything. But on the other hand, if we desire a partner in life completely based on the physical needs or material aspects, we could sorely be disappointed. Why? Because we have not accounted for a deeper aspect of our existence. So now you have a partner who is going to be a real partner at every level. At every level, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level partnership. That's healthy. It's not compartmentalized where you have someone who is going to cooperate with you in some areas of your life, will not cooperate with you in other areas. Now you have someone who Krishna has provided who is going to assist you. If you are in the business of educating yourself, desire an education which will help you serve the Lord better. How is that so? In some cases, what exactly you can do is you can basically desire a life and a profession which might give you a lot more time with reasonable amount of money. And the time in turn can be used to serve the Lord. There's so much to do. There's so much reading to do. There's so much chanting to do. There's so much seva to do. There's so much association to get. So many parikramas to attend. Imagine having a profession which allows you to travel along. Right? There were many Prabhupada disciples who chose professions of that kind. You know, they were gemologists, they were this, they were that, they were jewelry makers and so on and so forth. They would be here for 6 months, be here in Vrindavan for 6 months. Right? Very healthy life, you know, completely. The profession is completely ingrained with Krishna in the center. While we do not have to worry about taking on such a profession, we are already in a profession, we at least start desiring to keep Krishna in the center, in the profession and in the education. How do we keep Krishna in the center, in the education and profession? We keep Krishna in the center and take a decision based on what is going to be favorable for me to be able to execute Krishna consciousness. So what are the 4 pillars of mercy that we normally ask for? We ask for our ability to be able to call out the names of Krishna nicely. This is Nam Sankirtan, Nam Bhajan, which is the most important aspect in Kali Yuga. There's nothing more important than chanting the holy names. We also call and ask for the ability to live according to the Bhagavad Gita. We want to read and we want to live according to the Bhagavad Gita. We ask for the ability to associate nicely. It's amazing that a group of like-minded individuals supposedly get together and fight. Vaishnavas get together and have differences. There is so much in common amongst Vaishnavas. Why are we so focused on differences? So we want to tend to associate nicely, be able to value association. Right? We want to be able to value association where we want to say that someone in our community is contributing so wonderfully to us. If we observe every individual in our community, they are wonderful people. If you observe them carefully, they have wonderful traits. If you observe them nicely, you will see that they are serving so nicely. Yes, they have problems, but so do we. It's like someone entering a hospital who is sick and he's calling everyone else sick. And then he's saying, there's a difference between you and me. You are sicker than me. I'm so focused on your disease. Yeah, I have a disease and you have a disease, but why are we so focused on the diseases? Everybody has a disease, and that's the reason why we are being treated. Krishna consciousness is like a hospital. Every one of us is being treated nicely. We are receiving treatment. We are recuperating. We are improving. Everybody is sick to some degree. But everybody is wonderful to a large degree. So when we start focusing on the good qualities, when we start focusing on the wonderful, exalted qualities of the Vaishnavas and what they have to offer, then automatically we would be able to see the mercy that's been given to us by association. Association is mercy, kripa. What happens when you enter into Sangha first? What happened when you entered into the temple for the first time? Any one of you. What happened when you entered? What was your experience? What happened when you associate? What did you have the opportunity to do? The moment he came into a temple and you associate, you get the opportunity for service. And service to whom? Krishna. This is our aspiration. Our aspiration is, originally we are servants of Krishna. Getting an opportunity to serve Krishna is wonderful, it's rare. And when we come in touch with devotees of Krishna, they make us serve Him. This is mercy. How could we have even thought of service without devotee association? Sangha. Very important. So we desire Sangha, we desire reading and living on according to the Bhagavad Gita, we desire chanting the holy names nicely, and we desire, what else? What else is important? Chanting, reading, service, association, Sangha. So we desire all these four qualities. So when we desire these four qualities, we are telling Krishna, Krishna, provide me with a profession, provide me with a job, provide me with a partner in life, provide me with an education which would allow me to get a maximum of all of this. I want an opportunity set which is large. Krishna, I want an opportunity set which is large, where I would be able to do a lot of all of this. This is your true blueprint. When you create a blueprint for life, and this you can very clearly even plan it out, write it on a piece of paper that this is the kind of house you want, okay? This is the kind of partner you need, this is the kind of profession you need, this is the kind of education you need. All of this, keeping Krishna in the center, keeping in mind, I want to serve better, I want to associate better, I want to be able to read and live according to the Shastra better, I want to be able to chant better. When you desire in this healthy manner, taking into account your inner existence, what manifests in the future would be magnificent. It would not be misaligned, it will not be fragmented as we see it. It would be magnificent. Why? Because we chose to go very deep. We chose to account for the needs of the soul. We don't account for the needs of the soul, and that's the reason why we are frustrated. We chose to account for the needs of the soul. When we create this blueprint and we start desiring it actively, we are starting to live, because this would manifest a future. Because when we chant, we are desiring. The holy names are like a kalpavriksha. We are desiring service. We are desiring chanting. It is going to provide that. It is going to provide the circumstances. It's going to provide the circumstances. So this is the fundamentals of the third chapter. When we act according to this, constantly keeping Krishna in the center and start taking decisions, those decisions would be healthy. This is Karma Yoga. Because at every step, we are acting in our sphere of activities, but also taking care of our deepest needs. Keeping Krishna in the center. Right? So now we are right at the culmination of the third chapter. And the culmination of the third chapter is making a comparison between those who just desire for the sake of desires and those who desire by keeping Krishna in the center. Right? So the verse here, 27. Prakritehe kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Let's go to the next verse, 28. Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho gunaguneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So knowing well the differences between work for fruitive results and work in devotion. One who is armed with knowledge, the knowledge that we are parts and parcels of Krishna, knowledge that we are His servants, knowledge that we have a singular deep identity of being His servant deep within, and then every other identity we have formed in life is only a secondary aspect, which is an expansion of this body. When this knowledge comes forth fully, such a person is not propelled to act for sense gratification alone. Such a person is propelled to serve the Absolute, and he is transcendental. He can act transcendentally. So that's the whole concept. One who has this knowledge that you have to form a blueprint and you have Krishna in the center, take care of that. Take care of the aspects of serving Krishna better, serving the Vaishnavas. Then you plan for everything else based on that. Such a person is in knowledge. Someone who is just planning for the peripheral activities is surely setting themselves up for disappointment. Surely setting themselves up for disappointment. 29. Prakriter guna samuddaha sajjante guna karmashu Tana kritsna vido mandan kritsna vinna vichalyet. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them. although these duties are inferior to the performer's lack of knowledge. So these duties are inferior because they are completely material. But we don't want to unsettle people because we don't want to be telling people or demotivating them from acting. They are acting based on fruitive results. Our job is to be able to share with them the higher plane of existence. Our job is to be able to tell them that there's something even better than what you're trying to do. Yes, what you're doing is giving you some happiness. But what if I show you something which is even better? So our job is to be able to guide them and to be able to give them something even better. The wise do not unsettle them. Do not make them stop saying what you're doing is so wrong. What's the point? What's the point in working? Stay at home. Impractical. What's the point in doing this? People worship demigods. We don't unsettle that. But we do introduce the element where we start telling them that there is a certain hierarchy. There's a place, right? Where Krishna is, where demigods are, what is the specific relationship, and how desires are granted. This is knowledge. So we empower with knowledge. We don't unsettle. So when they engage in fruitive activities, now there's an upgrade because now new knowledge has come into the place. Automatically there's an upgrade in their consciousness, there's a shift in the consciousness, and people start acting based on such shifts. Right? We go in stages. So we don't really condemn, we don't really unsettle those who are engaging in activity which is fruitive, which is materialistic. But we do have a duty to be able to share the higher truth. It's like we have been given a wonderful gift. You want to share the gift. Even if you notice in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was not imposing the gift. He was sharing it to Arjuna. There is free will. You're allowed to act. Here's a choice. Right? So that is being given. So the duties themselves are not different. Someone who is in absolute knowledge will have a family, may be doing a regular job. They could be, living here in New Jersey, and then there's also so many others living in New Jersey. The difference between the two is one who is in knowledge is keeping Krishna in the center, and one who is not in knowledge is just existing in material activities. Externally, both appear to be the same. Everybody is eating and sleeping. We eat and sleep with knowledge. Someone who doesn't have this knowledge eats and sleeps without it. So our job is to be able to share this knowledge so that they can also eat and sleep with knowledge. Let's do 30, right? Mai sarvani karmani sannyasyadyatma setasam nirasir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatat jvaraha. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works onto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So Krishna is giving instructions here which are unequivocal. He is saying, surrender all your works onto me. What does it mean? What does it mean when he says, surrender all your works onto me? We will talk. Go ahead. Keep him in the center and act according to what is beneficial for the pleasure of Krishna. And accept the results with courage, with humility, and act upon them. So you are basically acting, but ready to accept any fruit that's being given by the Lord. You'll accept it with courage, and you would say, okay, here's the fruit that's been given. Thank you for this gift. Obviously, this has been something which I need. Okay? We'll talk about these two verses the following week, 30 and 31. Okay? 30, 31, 32, and 33. Actually, yeah, there are quite a few verses which are somewhat connected. So next week, Srila Prabhupada ki. Any questions? I forgot to ask some of you newcomers. What's your name? Priyansh. And what's yours? Rahul. And what's your name? Pooja. Nice. And then I think your wife was right there, Shruti. Okay, very nice. Good to see everyone. We have this session on Fridays, and normally it's not here, but it's in a different location, but it's in Piscataway. It's around 5 minutes, 10 minutes from here. So if you have time, you could join us. We would appreciate that. Right. Any questions? So you're saying an animal does not have discriminating intelligence. An animal, a dog or a cat or a goat, does not have the ability to think about the duties of life. How can it go from one body to the other? That is automatic. That's automatic. There's always an upgrade from one class of animal to the other automatically. They act according to their body. A tiger does not discriminate. A tiger acts according to the propensity born out of its body. A snake does not discriminate between a 3-year-old and a 30-year-old. It strikes whoever comes. It does not discriminate. It acts according to its body. Because the body in which they are in produces a certain kind of nature. Every animal is different based on its body. So they are acting according to their body, and then they act, and then they move on from one body to the other. Naturally, it's progression. They evolve. The soul evolves from one body to the other and finally reaches the human birth. When they come into the human birth, they are quite basic. The animal tendencies will be very high, very, very high. They would have a tendency to eat anything indiscriminately. There would be a tremendous amount of focus on the body. Right. They would not be able to discriminate. There would be a lot of ignorance. So from an animal body, first human body will not be very evolved. So once they come in touch here, and then slowly, based on that body, there are certain duties that they have to perform. If they have opportunity to perform those duties, they make progress. You see? There are so many world religions. There are so many different paths. In one sense, one can say that all paths lead to God, but in another sense, you also have to understand that each and every path has a certain audience in mind. Because if you study the path carefully, and if you see the rules and regulations, the path basically guides you from one point to the other at the very basic level. The rules and regulations, the sadhana, the standards, and so on differ. Right? So basically, you progress from one level of consciousness to the other level of consciousness to the other level of consciousness over progressive lifetimes, provided you did what you were supposed to do in each and every lifetime. But that is karma. But there's also desire. Someone who is born, let's say, a Christian, but who has an extremely deep sense of wanting to connect to God, Krishna, God, will make himself available to such a soul, even though he may not have access to the highest philosophy. Your blessing, yes. You come from the Christian background. So now you're in touch with Krishna consciousness because you had a desire wanting to know a lot about God. So he led you to somewhere where you will have a lot more information than the opportunity that you had in Christianity. But not to say that even there are many cases in Christianity where there were quite a few advanced souls who desired God far beyond their reach in terms of philosophical appreciation or availability of information. And Krishna did manifest himself to them, allowed them to make a lot of progress. So there were quite a few cases where they were quite advanced. Saint Francis of Assisi, there were quite a few of them where their actual standing and their realization was far beyond what could normally be seen from the Bible. And Jesus does say in the Bible, and even in the Quran it is said by Muhammad, that there's a lot more to share that I have not shared here, in the sense that, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Right? So they offer whatever is being offered based on the capacity of the audience to absorb. It is like someone has a PhD, right? The Guru has a PhD. Lord Jesus is a PhD. But then if he is going to teach a group of, let's say, high school students, he might be a PhD, but then he has to bring down and tone down the knowledge to suit them. Because their caliber to absorb and to understand and to follow was quite less. You see? But his caliber, he was of a highest grade Vaishnava. So any Vaishnava is able to appreciate Jesus, because we can surely understand what it takes to do what he did. We can appreciate it, because our theology and our own teachings teach us that for him to do what he did, he's a great personality. Special, very dear to Krishna. So that's the beauty. The beauty is that when we develop a much higher level of understanding and a higher consciousness, we are able to understand everyone else. A few years ago, my spiritual master was invited, and this is around 10 years back. He was invited to an interfaith dialogue in Washington, D.C. So there was an imam, there was a bishop, there was a Hebrew, a rabbi, and my own spiritual master also was there. And the first thing that he spoke there was, to understand interfaith, you have to have deep faith. So when your own faith runs very deep, then you are able to look at every other faith and understand it better. So if I can appreciate Lord Jesus, if I can appreciate the teachings in the Quran, I can appreciate the teachings in the Jewish book, in the Torah, it is only because my own faith is very deep. So when my faith is superficial, all I can see are the differences. What kind of dress, what do they eat, what do they talk about, the language. I can only see the differences because my faith itself is superficial. My faith, if it is very deep, then I'm able to reach across, and I'm able to cut across, and I'm able to see everything. Right. So, in 2005, I went for a memorial. It was three months after the passing of my Guru Maharaj. And in that passing, very unusual for a Vaishnava saint to be honored. There was an imam, there was a bishop, there was a rabbi. And the beauty is, they all came and they all shared the fact that they were using his books in the church for preaching. They were using his books as a study group on Thursdays. So it's a very fascinating gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. This is actual preaching. Well, we actually get around to say that we have a family, and our family is so beautiful that we have people from every part of the world as a part of the family. Who can claim that? Who can possibly make a claim that you can go to any part of the world and you have so much in common with people there that you can sit and have prasad together? I can go to Africa, I can sit with someone and I can have so much in common. I can go to any part of the world and sit with someone, have so much in common. This is the gift of Srila Prabhupada. Very profound gift where there's such a focus and such beauty on our inner existence, not so much on the differences. Only then would philosophy, only then would this practice spread so much. It has spread only because it is not at the bodily level. Right. Yes, you had a question, right? That's what it means. We act according to the modes of material nature because our consciousness is composed of the modes of material nature. If I am tamasic, I will act in a tamasic manner. If I am rajasic, I will act in a rajasic manner. Right? Yeah, because we have acquired it. If I keep acting in a passionate manner, I develop a passionate consciousness. And that passionate consciousness will drive my next action. Let's understand it. Right? If I eat a lot of chili powder, for instance, if I eat very spicy food, then that is going to make my mind and my brains race. I would not be able to focus so much. Right? And when you do that, you're going to be taking decisions that are quite passionate, that are not steeped in goodness. So now you have acquired a certain consciousness. You're under the influence of passion. So your next action is guided by that passion where you yourself do not have much freedom. That's what it means. Right? I think we'll stop here. It's 9:45. It's an hour. Unless anyone had one last question, otherwise we'll stop. Srila Prabhupada ki